everybody. Welcome to Week 16 of the Athletics Fantasy Football Cheat Sheet. I'm Nando DeFino, stepping in for Derek Van Riper. Alongside me, Michael Peller.
What's up, Nando? Week 16.
Get excited, folks. And Jiggy.
What's going on?
Let's do this. First of all, I want to shout out Jock Market for sponsoring this, presenting this, however you'd like to say it, free of commercial interruption. So you're not going to hit these ads before if you're watching this later on demand. They're running a special right now. We're going to get to some picks later that Beller's going to actually teach you how to make money on Jock Market. But the Athletic 10, throw it in there. They'll give you $10 free when you make any kind of deposit. It's basically a stock market game. You can do it for the NBA too, and the NBA is alive now. So NFL, NBA, golf when it's coming. You can do it on the Droid. You can do it on your iPhone. But I mean, come on. We're Droid family here, right?
No,
right?
You're stupid.
Not just you.
All right. Soon to be converted. So thank you to Jock Market. Seriously, check him out. It's a fun game. Beller will tell you, he plays it. He likes it. He's winning.
Yeah. All right. Double the money so far from the start of the NFL season. So let's do it a little later.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to get the three big stories. We're going to hit game by game, give everyone all your questions we can get to. We're going to try and answer them, see if some of them are in there already. But let's get to the biggest story, I think. And, the more I look at it, the less I think it's big. It's Cleveland. Cleveland's basically lost all of their wide receivers except for Marvin Hall. Our guy Brandon Howard, who's our writer, who's our scouting guy, he had some tweets last night that explained a couple of the guys. He said Marvin Hall is a penchant for getting open vertically. If Baker Mayfield is able to take a shot off play action, look for him to connect with Hall, which is nice. But Jamarcus Bradley has some game very similar to Steve Smith. Timing is going to be important for a guy like that, so I don't expect his chemistry to be where it needs to be in order for him to be particularly productive. And I say all this in the context of, doesn't matter. Like, the Browns were throwing like 25 times, if that, early in the season. They got three very, very good tight ends who can kind of step in. Kareem Hunt played a lot of the slot last year. Belly, let me go to you first. Like, this is kind of like a situation where I guess they'll establish the run. I mean, they're playing the Jets, so who cares? And then just kind of like hit their tight ends who might be filling in some wide receiver positions, right?
I mean, I think that's something that they could do, but I think it matters in a big way. Baker Mayfield has been on a 4-game run that's arguably been the best of his career. Maybe not pure fantasy production, but quarterback play. This has been really the best we've seen of Baker Mayfield, and he was coming into this week as, I think, a pretty reliable low-end QB1. You take Jarvis Landry away from him, you take Rashard Higgins away, you take Donovan Peoples-Jones away, and I think the Browns still win this game. I don't think it's going to matter to them too much from a we really need this win to get in the playoffs standpoint. I think they'll be fine there, but in fantasy, I think we lost a QB1 in Baker Mayfield. We lost a locked-in wide receiver starter in Jarvis Landry, and you took away a couple of shots in Rashard Higgins and Donovan Peoples-Jones. Rashard Higgins probably on the wide receiver 3 radar in most leagues. Donovan Peoples-Jones maybe someone who you were comfortable taking a shot on in deeper leagues, or if you were just in a rough spot with your wide receivers in this week. And now all those guys are off the board. So I think this changes things dramatically from where the Browns are in the fantasy world.
Well, I'm pulling up a question myself. This is Tad Reed. Let's contextualize this, Jake. Baker Mayfield, Russell Wilson, Mitchell Trubisky. Answer this and then walk us through what happened yesterday when you started reading Schefter's reports about all the Browns wide receivers being out.
Well, so on top of that, there's actually a tweet. I paused it as we're speaking live on the ESPN show. With Stefanski said they had a walkthrough at 8:15 in the parking garage next to the hotel with the wide receivers, trying to get them up to speed. Nice. So, look, that's what we're dealing with here. But to go back to the Baker thing real quick, he had attempted it. You said, is this really much different? Well, it is, because the past 3 games, Baker's attempted at least 32 passes. He had been passing a lot more of late. It'd been a much more balanced offense. So, yes, you do expect him to go back to that. And you mentioned the 3 tight ends and Hooper and Njoku and Harrison Bryant, who I love Harrison Bryant.
Yeah, so a guy.
Yeah, so if you look at it, yesterday when it was tweeted out, it was kind of crazy. Initially, it said wide receivers and potentially a tight end. So you thought you might include Austin Hooper in that because you said close contact. You would assume it'd be the top end guys, but then it ended up being no Hooper, but also Kadarius Hodge, who could have stepped in because he was the number 1, then got hurt. Then Higgins ended up being the number 1B to Jarvis Landry. So Marvin Hull would be the only one I would risk as a wide receiver 4. It's somebody who has the ability that we saw at times with the Lions and will probably be the option, but I would expect a ton of 12 today. I would be surprised if there's very few snaps where they don't have 2 tight ends on the field. And you might even see Kareem Hunt out of the slot. So Kareem Hunt went from just outside my top 20 to solidly inside, pushing the top 15 of running backs. Nick Chubb didn't really move at all. But Baker, I didn't move him down as much as most people did. A lot of people took him from what Beller said is like a fringe QB1, which is where I had him, all the way down to, I put him at 19 behind Russell Wilson. I originally had Russell Wilson way down there, but now I would go with Russell Wilson just because of the higher upside.
Where's
I think
Trubisky,
Baker still.
Jake?
I
should have this.
I still think what? I can't
Where's
hear you.
Trubisky?
I'm getting to that in a second.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Russell Wilson
I should
is
have
the
more
safe.
faith in you this holiday season.
Yeah. So safer, but Baker has the higher ceiling with the bigger, or has the better floor now because they're going to be so run heavy. Trubisky's up near the top 12. I actually had Trubisky, I think, at like 13 or 14. So Trubisky was right behind Baker before this, and now he's well in front of him. I wouldn't just bench. Like, I'm not benching Baker for Daniel Jones, but I have Trubisky right next to Matt Ryan at 12 and 13.
All right. I think we'll hit the Browns when we hit the Browns game a little bit more because, I'm fascinated by this, but at the same time, it's not like the Denver situation with all the quarterbacks gone and you're starting like a wide receiver there. There are a lot of options the Browns have, which makes it just a little less exciting. Beller, I want to talk about James Robinson because we've talked about this a little bit here and there. Like James Robinson is getting basically every single snap. What happens if he's out? So I pulled up the snap counts from week 11. It's Robinson, obviously number 1 by a lot. Ogunbowale, who's number 2 by a decent amount over Zigbo. But there's this feeling right here that's like Nathan Cottrell's going to be the guy this week, and I don't know why. I don't know what it is. It's just one of those things, those Malcolm Gladwell moments. But what do you think with Jacksonville? Just stay away from everybody, or would you risk it with one of the backups?
No, I think you absolutely stay away from everybody. I think the big gap between Ogunbowale and Ezigbo is because Ogunbowale is a guy who's always been a pass catcher. Even going back to his days at Wisconsin, he's been a pass-catching back. So he has filled that function as much as Jacksonville has needed someone to fill that function alongside James Robinson. But the big takeaway here is you're not going to be able to play any Jaguar running back with any level of confidence against a full-strength Bears defense. Even you were playing James Robinson, but maybe you were expecting him to be more toward the low end of the running back 1 class against this Bears defense rather than being somewhere near the top 5. You take him out, you put in this 3-headed group, and you just really can't go with any of them. I think you can safely stay away from the entire Jaguars offense, save the possibility of DJ Chark as a wide receiver 3 type of play.
Oh, so we're not doing Mike Glennon today?
We are not doing Mike Glennon today. Absolutely not.
All right. Jake, let's go to Washington. This is the third of our big 3 stories, at least the ones that I deemed the big ones. Terry McLaurin, looks like he's out. I don't think that's official yet. I saw a couple reports from Ian Rappaport saying he's going to be out. But we like to just get the confirmation officially here. But Antonio Gibson somehow is going to play with turf toe after missing like a week. How does this shake out for you when you're putting together your rankings? I've got them printed out here, but I didn't actually circle the guys who I want to talk about, so I figured you're here. You could tell us. But like Antonio Gibson, turf toe is like weird. Like that's a weird one to be playing through. Yeah.
Well, an inside injury said that they wouldn't have played him if this was their like that. They don't think he's ready. So that gives you the situation here. Look, goes to the Keenan Allen. This is what I keep saying. This is Keenan Allen from last week. Not even Keenan Allen this week, which just seems to be a changing report by the moment. But the last game for Keenan Allen does he have top 10 upside? Absolutely. Does he have the risk of exiting early, only getting 20 snaps, and completely ruining your day? Absolutely. So I put him where I would risk him if it's my team. That's what I always tell people in my rankings. My rankings are where I would play him. That's why I tell people to check the link. It's because that's who I go. That's my answer. This is how I would play them. So I have Antonio Gibson at 23. I would play him in front of Mike Davis on the other side of the ball. I would play him over J.D. McKissic on the same team. The Dallas split backfield, not knowing what James Conner is, and then go down from there. Guys still in front of him, Darrell Henderson, Gio Bernard against Houston, Le'Veon Bell, Chris Carson, and up from there. That's where I would risk him. If you're behind, you already faced, like the Kamara situation and you need the home run, then go for it. But it's the Keenan Allen situation, which I can't guarantee what's going to happen. Nobody can. Who knows what the touches are going to be? And whether it's Alex Smith or Dwayne Haskins, that doesn't play into the factor. Just Gibson's a high ceiling, very, very low floor play. And for the wide receivers, I think Cam Sims is the only one I would risk just because of how much he's been used already. I would put him as similar to the Marvin Hall situation. Fringe wide receiver 3 or 4. Steven Sims is more of a wide receiver 5 at best. But you can see a ton of Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas is pushing the top 5 already, and Logan Thomas will be right back there again.
You know who was activated from IR was Antonio
Gandy Golden, but he'll be wide receiver. He's not going to be on the field.
I just said, okay, we'll get back to him later. Kenny Nessel wants to know, is he overthinking this, Beller?
Yes. Jonathan Taylor, Nick Chubb, Miles Sanders, no doubt about it. Would maybe even feel this way if Antonio Gibson had never gotten hurt. But with the turf toe, absolutely, Taylor, Chubb, Sanders feel very good about that.
And Jonathan Taylor, I'm not a scout, But that way he ran that touchdown in last week, that Jonathan Taylor touchdown where he just kind of stood up and willed his way in. That's
special dude. Special dude.
Let's get to some games. Well, let's start with it. By the way, so I print my stuff out.
Yeah.
I'm old school.
Super old school.
Yeah. I know, Jake. What do you do?
When Nando and I used to do the show together on live TV, he'd have a stack of paper and I have like one that I would like push. Usually I just played with it.
Well, I feel like this gets me a little more engaged. This way I'm not clicking things on the
I'm just talking about the style differences.
Yeah, this is how I remember things, Jake.
Multiple ways to skin a cat, for sure.
That's right. Jake's rankings rundown. Let's get to Indianapolis and Pittsburgh. Jake, are we on a Phillip Rivers, especially with the Colts' offensive line in shambles? Is he trustworthy? How are we looking at Phillip Rivers?
No, he's not trustworthy. He's Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers is Kirk Cousins is the same as all the rest of them. It's going to be pass only. You're not going to get the rushing upside, which is what makes him so. The reason he's been sitting in that 14 to 18 range for my rankings all year long is like, sure, yeah, he's got some top 10 weeks, but it has to be 3 touchdowns and 300 yards because it's not going to be rushing. You look at this situation, bad matchup. The one good thing about it is it gives up a lot of plays of 20 plus yards. So, T.Y. Hilton could certainly break one off. Even Michael Pittman could, but they're also on the flip side of it. While they do that, they also give up some of the fewest points allowed to outside wide receivers. So it's, do you hit the big one here? And if you're going to put all that on Phillip Rivers, I think you attack this through Jonathan Taylor. No, nobody expected the Bengals to be up like they were in that game. But if Giovanni Bernard can have success against the Pittsburgh defense, who just looks tired at this point, I think you just lean on Jonathan Taylor and even Nyheim Hines.
Beller, I want to follow that up with these backfields. I mean, like James Conner, I like, whoa, right? Like, I don't know. It's what a weird year for James Conner. But at the same time, like, can we trust Indianapolis not to just say, let's make this a Hines game? Why not? Right? Hey, sure. I mean, how are you viewing these backfields with a championship on the line?
Yeah, yes, we can absolutely trust the Colts to not say we're going to make this a Nyheim Hines game in the way that we understood Nyheim Hines games earlier in the season. We've now seen, 3-4 straight games with a healthy Jonathan Taylor. He had the one game he missed on the COVID list in the middle of all of this, but when he's been available for Frank Reich over the last month, he has been trusted as a go-to running back, as he should be. This is Miles Sanders 2019 all over again. They brought the rookie along slowly, which was to be expected really in any year, and certainly in this year, given that rookies didn't have minicamp, OTAs, training camp, exhibition games, anything like that. But now they clearly understand who their running back one is and who they want to be their running back one. So you can absolutely trust Jonathan Taylor to be handling the bulk of the carries, handling the bulk of the work out of the backfield, and giving you, I think, pretty comfortably top 10 running back numbers this week. As for Pittsburgh, I don't think I would really want to chance anything with any of those guys. That offense just looks totally out of sorts. In 3 straight games, the red flag obviously coming against Cincinnati. You might be in a position where you really have to roll James Conner out there. Obviously, you drafted him as no worse than your second running back, so you just might not have better options, but I wouldn't feel great about it.
Jake, I know I saw it here just a second ago. I'm looking for James Conner in your rankings because either you were way higher or way lower than the expert consensus.
I don't care about the expert consensus.
I do. That. Oh, there you go. You were 31. You were 31 spots high. You got it right between Juju Smith-Schuster and Logan Thomas. And in terms of
I don't
running
care
backs,
about flex. I don't care about flex.
Well, you got all right. Fine. You got him below Ezekiel Elliott, who is below Antonio Gibson,
yes.
who's below Mike Davis.
He's sandwiched between Zeke and Pollard.
Yeah. What an interesting choice that's going to be this week.
Well, and that's why. It's not too dissimilar from Antonio Gibson, but with a lower ceiling, just because the fact is he hasn't looked great in his own right. This offense is falling apart right now and just can't get anything going, which is why I'm a little bit more optimistic maybe than some. Well, the reason I say I don't care about expert consensus for all that, just everybody out there, is because a lot of people don't update. A lot of people don't put injured players into their rankings until later. And then a lot of people just copy and paste rankings. If you notice, the gap gets smaller and smaller as the week goes on. So, I'm not saying that whatever. It's just because a lot of people ask in the comments, why are you so much higher? Why are you so much lower? Just ignore that because it's not a great number to look at. I wish you could just take that out of the rankings. No, because it confuses people.
I won't bring it up again.
No, that's why, because you were confused by it too. It confuses people because it's not a real number. So that's why I'm saying. But so Connor in his own right.
When it fixes itself though, Jake, like wouldn't it be like you'd maybe be 10 higher on? It's still. I mean, like 31's a huge number. So maybe it fixes itself to like 10.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It fixes itself to 10 at 12:50 p.m. once everybody finally got around to it and just copy everybody else's ranks.
Right, but you're still higher on Connor than most people, I think, and that's a good.
Maybe.
Connor's, all right.
No. Maybe I'm saying just leave this in. Don't use it. People get confused by it. Just let me talk about James Conner for a second. James Conner, they should establish the run more to give their offense more balance. The part of the reason the passing game is sucking is not just because of Ben's arm, but also because they're using it as this hybrid way to get the running game going by throwing short passes to Juju, getting Claypool as like a screen pass and stuff like that. They have no running game. And the one game where they looked like they had some success was when Benny Snell like really did well. So I'm a little bit more optimistic, but James Conner still has a 2-point floor. Like if you want to roll out, looking down the ranks, there's a lot of people that have already played, which is the problem here. Like, but Ito Smith, I don't like Ito Smith at all. I'm going to make that
mistake several times today, Jake. Don't worry.
Ito Smith,
Ito Smith is Gaskin.
Yeah,
don't worry.
Ito Smith is uninspiring, but he's got a better floor than James Conner at this point.
Yeah, that's not a nice thing to say about Ito Smith. Beller, as we wrap this up, Deontay Johnson. Actually, there's a question in here from he had a cool name, Tom Casanova. Let me pull that one up real quick. Ooh. Deontay Johnson or DK Metcalf?
DK Metcalf.
Okay, well, good luck. Hey, by the way,
without thinking.
Good luck, Tom.
I know, Tom. We're most of us are playing for championships if we're playing today, and it's been things have changed for Seattle. Things have changed the way that they've run their offense over the last 6 weeks now. I mean, we have definitely seen a reversion to what we expect from Pete Carroll and Brian Schottenheimer, and it has not redounded to the benefit of anyone in that Seattle passing game. But DK Metcalf is a special kind of player. DK Metcalf is the sort of guy who, even when this has been happening, really hasn't been giving you dud after dud after dud, and we know what he is at the big end of things. And these Seattle Rams games, it's a huge game for both of these teams, and I just think that we're going to see a little bit more of a lean on the Seattle passing game than we've seen in recent weeks. And again, DK Metcalf is one of those guys who you really can't bench. Maybe he's not playing in the Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill group that he was in earlier this season, but he is still a locked-in, no doubt about it, wide receiver one that there is no way you can find a way to bench.
I think you can still have the conversation with Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson's outscored in the past few games. You mentioned it with Russell Wilson. The targets are down. If you told me they got back to DK Metcalf getting doubled, if you gave me the equal, I will say one thing, Bill. If you gave me equal targets, let's say they both get 10, then I would take DK Metcalf and agree with it. It's no question. I'm just saying for this situation, with the way that things have been going with Deontay of recent, and with the way that DK Metcalf in this matchup and Russell Wilson's been playing mediocre, I think it's a conversation. I would still go DK. He's 5 spots in front of Deontay, but the 5 spots is why I don't think it's just a slam dunk 10 out of 10.
Were you going to say the S word there, Jake?
No.
All right. Just want to make sure. Before you went to mediocre? Huh?
No.
All right. Let's go to Atlanta, Kansas City. Jake, you already kind of poo-pooed Ito Smith. But here's a question for you. And I'll go to Beller for this one because it's your turn.
Cool.
Is Gurley, everyone's Ito Smith is a starter. Ito Smith is a starter. But, that doesn't mean Gurley won't get, 12 touches, right? Ito Smith's the starter, so he'll get more, I assume. Or he'll literally start the game. Although I don't think that's happening. I think it is trending more toward Ito Smith getting a lion's share of the carries. But, that doesn't mean, A, Ito Smith is going to get 80% of everything, and it doesn't mean, B, Todd Gurley's completely out of it. I don't think you can start Todd Gurley, but, he's still a threat to Ito Smith, right, in this context?
I suppose so, but 8 carries, 6 carries, 1 carry the last 4 games for Todd Gurley. The only person who absolutely knows the answer to this, the only people who know the answer to this are Dirk Cutter, Raheem Morris, and they're not on this show. We have to look back at the numbers that we've seen, and it just hasn't been there for Todd Gurley. And even when the carries were there for Todd Gurley, it was touchdown or bust. I was the type of player he had become this year, and he was finding the end zone enough to pay off what his ADP was, but it was still a touchdown or bust player. Now he's sharing the backfield with multiple guys. He is not the leader of that backfield, so really he is just a fly in the ointment, and it is a pretty ineffective ointment when we're talking about Ito Smith also.
Jake, let's look at the Atlanta wide receivers. I find this very interesting because Russell Gage, when Julio Jones had been out before, Russell Gage didn't exactly step up, which has been totally different these last couple weeks. Is this a trend we should expect to continue, and how do you shake out that Atlanta wide receiver situation this week?
I'd say continuing good matchups. The one thing about the Chiefs is it's not a great matchup for Russell Gage in the situation with the slot wide receiver. So that's why I think he's riskier than he has been as a wide receiver 3. But if this ends up being a pass-happy game, which most people expect, but we've seen games where we expected this before and have gone completely the opposite direction. We've seen ones where we thought they're going to walk away with a 55 over and then 60, 65 easy, and that game ends up being 23-20. So if it goes that way, that would be my concern for Russell Gage because Calvin Ridley's getting his. Calvin Ridley has been unstoppable without Julio Jones. And if you look at it, he's honestly, I think he's been top 5. So it's going to be him. Russell Gage, I think, is riskier because of this matchup. But I think it's, who are you sitting him for? I'm looking at right now the guys he's around. Tim Patrick could get you a 0 or a 15. Kiki QT is a floor guy. Crowder's a floor guy. And they might not even pass as much depending on what happens in that game. So, if you want to go for it, I have no problem because he's in a range of guys that are either floor or ceiling. That's usually what happens when you get down to the wide receiver 3s.
We're going to answer your questions in just a minute, but I want to ask this one question about Le'Veon Bell. Weirdly, I mean, like, if you would have taken a time machine from 2 years ago and jumped in and watched this show and be like, so will Le'Veon Bell have any kind of impact? It used to be a slam dunk. This is Le'Veon Bell, man. But I know, there's the threat of a couple other running backs in there, whatever. Beller, fill in the blank. Le'Veon Bell will be a top blank RB today.
I'll go top 20. I think he can get into that range. Obviously he does not have the same burst that he had in his Pittsburgh days, but burst was never his big trait, right? This was a versatile running back and a guy who's very savvy, a very smart running back, a guy who understands what his role is within each single play that is called for him. And a guy who always set up his blocks very well, a guy who always seemed to know where he should be at every single point of every single play to take the most advantage of what was available to him and what the play was designed to do. And even though he doesn't have necessarily the same burst he once did, he still has that brain. He still has that savvy, and he has a hell of a play caller and a hell of a play designing team in Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy. So being the lead guy in this offense, I think he can take advantage to the tune of being a pretty comfortable RB2 this afternoon.
Jake, you got him 44th in the flex rankings. He's ahead of James Conner. Obviously.
Running back, 19th at running back.
Oh, fine.
He's
I
still
don't have those printed out, man. I don't order a printer right now.
It's only 10 minutes later. He still hates the flex rankings. Just go with the positions.
But you know what though? Le'Veon Bell, I think, hits a lot of flex questions, maybe. And we're going to get to him right now. Maybe he's in some of them.
They get to him. Here's what I'll say is like the reason I don't care about flex rankings is one is I let. Yeah, I let it auto-populate the flex rankings because I always tell people the positions are more important. Like I would just do away with flex if I could because often when you're talking about a running back versus a wide receiver, even if they're back-to-back, your floor is with the running back because they get the guaranteed touches. The ceiling with the lower floor is the wide receiver because they could get 7 receptions or they could be targeted twice all day. You get guaranteed touches versus the ceiling play. So that's why it inherently, a lot of times, answers its own question.
All right, fair enough. Let's get some questions. Question block is brought to you by Jock Market, our friends at Jock Market. Ad-free, the show, thanks to Jock Market. Check out their app. Use the code ATHLETIC10 to get a free $10 if you make any kind of deposit there. Oh, it might be a $10 deposit, but deposit $10 anyway. But you get a free 10 to mess with. Beller's going to tell you some of his picks later on, but it's a fun game. It's like, I don't know if anyone's trading cards. It's kind of like, it's a stock market, thus the name Jock Market. But check it out. They're friends of the show. Let's go. Sweetcoff wants to know Chargers or Steelers. Let's bang these out quick so we can get a bunch of them in. Jakey, Chargers or Steelers, DST.
Originally it was Chargers, but with the Steelers now with that offensive line and all the situation, and I think they've still been solid.
All right, next. Chad wants to know Hooper versus Tunyon in a half-point PPR, Beller.
Give me Robert Tonyan. I will trust this Green Bay offense to be put in very good situations. I think we see a fun, high-scoring game between the Packers and Titans tonight.
I hope so. Next, Jaggy, Daniel Silver. He lost James Robinson's options or Singletary, Moss. Agumbawale. Okay, go ahead.
No. I was in
thanks
case
for
you didn't.
my momentum. That was going to be fun.
Sorry.
Who are you taking? Moss?
No. If I'm taking the floor at Singletary, if I need the home run, it's Marvin Hall.
And let me ask you guys a question from Nando. Would you rather be, and this kind of goes off what Beller was talking about before the show, would you rather be the guy who started Tua, or would you rather be the team that had to face Alvin Kamara right now? And I think some people might be in this situation, but it's kind of like, do you have to climb up that mountain against the Kamara hole that he's created for you? Or do you have to climb up that out of the ditch that Tua has created for you? Beller, which one would you rather be?
I would much rather be in the Tua ditch than facing the Kamara mountain. You just think about it. How often do you beat a person who had a 53 or 54 or 58, whatever your scoring system point score from one player? And how often do you still win a game getting 8 or 9 points from one of your own players, even if it is a quarterback? I would rather be doing that than having to fight against Kamara.
Difference of opinion.
That's Nando, I agree, but I would also rather face Kamara than, shout out to Goblin Girls. I tweeted this out yesterday. I said, did anybody face all four? I want to see it. Finally got the answer this morning. Goblin Girls face Tom Brady, Alvin Kamara, Jeff Wilson, and Mike Evans is already down 166 to 27. And somehow ESPN thinks she still has a 3% chance to win.
Jake, that's when you go into your league settings and you're like, I hope second place is like $300.
That's what I said. Look, you just don't have to sweat today. You could just put in every dart throw you want and just go watch the games and have fun.
By the way, David Ganos gave the best advice I've ever heard, which, I mean, it's going to apply to like 0.001% of people. But he says, drop your bench, drop all these handcuffs and backups, and pick up DSTs.
Oh, to block
the second half?
Mm-hmm. No, I was going to say, I usually do that to block with quarterbacks too.
Yeah,
I guess you could do that. Yeah, or quarterback. I suppose like you're getting guaranteed points on your bench, and the bench scoring is your tiebreaker.
If that's your tiebreak.
Yeah.
Then if that's my tiebreak, I'm picking up all quarterbacks and then defenses.
But I assume a bunch of them are going. I don't know. A lot of people playing in super flexes and stuff. But
here's real quick, Nando. Sorry, let's get back to the questions. But real quick, because you said that, make sure you have tiebreakers in place beforehand. And I know people play with decimal scoring. I do. But I had a team in my league last year, my home league, that had 2 ties in the same season. It could still happen. So make sure you have a tiebreak in place.
I love ties. All right, more questions. Who we leave all is I think it's Jake's turn.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait. Jake angrily shot down the last one. Beller, would you start Mark Andrews or Logan Thomas?
I mean, this is 2 guys who I think are going to be started pretty much across the board. I think this maybe is a minority opinion. I'm going to go to Mark Andrews. I just think that we've seen such a great performance from Baltimore's offense over the last month that this becomes a bet on Baltimore's offense versus Washington's. And I just want to, with the quarterback situation in one versus the other, I feel a little bit better about the better Mid-Atlantic team in Baltimore than I do about the one in D.C. So I'm going Mark Andrews here. I admit, Lucius, I would guess I'm in the minority on this one, so wouldn't fault you for going the other way.
Dude, I hope that's not a movie reference because like Lucius Varenus is like
it's from Rome, the short-lived HBO show Rome.
All right, fair. Sorry, guy. Jakey. In a PPR, Marquise Brown, Jacoby Myers, or Russell Gage? Help Timothy out, Jake.
I would still go Gage. Myers feels like a nice floor, but that's Cam Newton might throw for 100 yards any given game. I can't
might throw for 82 yards.
Yeah. So, and because it's full PPR, Marquise Brown actually has a bad matchup today, and he could easily get 3 catches for 100 yards, but it's going to be 3 catches.
Let's get a few more out. By the way, Inactives are going to start rolling in soon, so we'll get those as quickly as we can to everyone. Luke, not as cool as Lucius, but whatever. This is probably his real name at least. Hey, guys, need your help with this one. Gage, Claypool, or Lazard? Beller, which way are you going?
I'll go Claypool here. Gage is close enough for me for all the reasons that Jake has mentioned about Russell Gage here this morning, but I still think with the way this Pittsburgh offense runs that it's going to be hard to sit any of the 3 down. You would need to have, say, DK Metcalf versus Deontay Johnson to want to sit one of these 3 Pittsburgh receivers down. So I'm still going to lean on Claypool and trust that the targets are going to be there for him.
All right.
I'm stealing your next question,
sorry,
Nando.
What?
I will answer this one too, but for Joseph Mattarelli and Mattarelliano.
You can't pronounce an Italian name like that?
Mattarelliano. There you go.
Mattarelliano.
The shirt is final space as Super Mario Brothers 3. That's because he asked what the shirt is. He always looks forward to it.
All right. Do you want to ask someone asked what's showing up on your reflection of the Thomas jersey too, if you want to go for that?
That looks like Chris Mortensen.
Yeah, it's the ESPN morning show just to make sure that we get the Schefter news. I can see if it's coming through, like that tweet that I mentioned where they were talking about the Browns practicing in the parking lot.
That's how much Jake cares. Okay, let's bring that other question back up. So, go ahead from Timmy C. Championship game.
This is the opposite here. This is context. This is the opposite. Usually it's the running back that's the floor and the wide receivers the ceiling. This is the opposite. Crowder's your floor here. Gibson's if you need the home run, but look, Gibson, again, it could be Keenan Allen. He could go out there, look like junk because of the toe for the first 3 or 4 touches and just never see the field again.
Joe is very proud of the way you pronounce his last name. I can see that one. Let's get all right. 2 more. One more for Beller, 1 more for Jake, and then we're gonna get some more of these games. Keep them coming though. We got a bunch of blocks built in here for your questions. Jake Wallace, we got a half PPR. Need some upside. Who is the odd man out? Is it Chris Carson, Kareem Hunt, or Le'Veon Bell?
I think it's the odd man out is Le'Veon Bell. I'm starting Chris Carson and Kareem Hunt here, and I think you could actually construct an argument where Le'Veon Bell is part of the upside discussion here, but this is just two guys who are out of his league, frankly, going into this week. I think Chris Carson and Kareem Hunt have the higher floor. They have the higher upside because they're simply the better players at their respective stages of their career, and I like what we suppose we are going to see from Kareem Hunt with all those Browns receivers out. So give me those first two guys and sit Le'Veon. I think they're all top 20 plays, though.
One more question for Jakey before we get to Chicago, Jacksonville. Hilton or Hollywood? Or Lamb?
Or Lamb.
PPR. From Francis.
Francis.
That's a Rick and Morty.
This is, look, Hilton versus Hollywood. It's you're almost picking the identical player. I mean, you take away the names, and it's the same situation. You're looking for both have poor matchups, but both have situations where they could hit a big play and make up for your day. So it's going to come down to that. Lamb, the biggest problem I have there is that Gallup's kind of Dalton's guy a lot of times. Amari Cooper's got a tough matchup too, but Cooper's just been steadily involved. I would say it's between Hilton and Hollywood. If it's my team, I'm going T.Y. Hilton, but if you want to go Hollywood, I'm okay with it.
I got a couple questions from the VIP line that I'd appreciate some help with, actually, before we get to these games. Bears or Texans D? As we roll into the Bears game.
Bears. No doubt about it.
Jake?
The Texans that's the definition of boomer bust, that defense. They have no defense. You're just playing it because you're hoping Ryan Finley screws up. And they just lost one of their best corners today, or safeties. Somebody that's played like 90% of the snaps just went down this morning.
That's no good.
Eric Murray just got put on COVID this morning.
Great. Beller, Chicago,
Yes.
Jacksonville. Let's start there. Trubisky versus Hurts. I like to ask this every week. I feel like Hurts is surging into
Every
the lead
week.
here.
It's been 2 weeks.
Well, yeah,
Every week of the last 3 weeks.
Every week since Jalen Hurts has been relevant. It seems like Trubisky versus Hurts is that apex point.
Yeah.
No,
like it's
that's not
Not
even a discussion.
anymore. It was a couple of weeks ago, but it's not anymore. I mean, with what you've seen from Jalen Hurts, he has to be the guy here. And Mitch has played well. And actually, it was one of his worst statistical games last week since re-becoming the starter for the Bears, but was very efficient. He was at 10 yards per attempt in that game. He just threw the ball only 20 times, and David Montgomery had 32 carries in it. But with everything we've seen from Jalen Hurts throwing and running the ball, he has to be in there for you. I mean, I'm starting Patrick Mahomes over him. I'm starting Josh Allen over him. I would have started Kyler Murray over him, and that wouldn't have worked out well for me. But we're talking about the top of the top who get to start over Jalen Hurts, and then Hurts belongs right in there.
Jake,
there's only there's only
ahead.
4 I have in front of him. Unfortunately, one was Kyler Murray. The only other 3 I would start is not actually Allen. I have him one spot in front of Allen, but to Beller's point, it's back-to-back. It'd be Mahomes, Rodgers, and Watson. That's it. That's the list.
Jake, is this going to be like crushing Jacksonville with an iron fist kind of thing, and maybe David Montgomery is taken out of the game a little early, just to save him a little bit?
So, you get this argument a lot, too, is like people were bringing up this point about Ryan Tannehill 2 weeks ago, and they're saying, well, what if the Titans are up 27-0 at halftime, like the Tom Brady situation? Here's if they score 27, they've already done their job.
Right.
So if you get benched in the 4th, good. That means you already got your fantasy points. Okay, Tom Brady didn't get a chance to get 450 and 5 touchdowns, but the point is, if you're getting benched,
Leonard Fournette saw the downside.
he already scored.
Yeah, but he scored.
You got what you wanted from Fournette.
But I could have used like 5 more touches and maybe 20.
And everybody always says that. You know what? I could use Alvin Kamara at every single one of them. It's not going to happen. Be happy with 15 to 20 points.
Fine.
Yes.
Beller, let's flip it to the Jacksonville side of things. This is Mike Glennon stepping in for the team that looks like they really want to win this game. How are you? I mean, I know before you said DJ Chark might be the only guy you can start, but I don't know if you kind of forced your way into having. I can't even imagine someone else on this team who you might be having right now. Actually, maybe we should skip that question.
There's no one. It's DJ Chark or nobody. I mean, the Bears win this game, and the Bears are now in playoff position too. On top of that, and I don't, these guys are professionals. You hear this argument a lot, but these guys are professionals. They go out there, they want to win basically every single game that they play. And football is the sort of sport where you can't come off the throttle a little bit because that's when you get hurt, right? So there's a little bit more motivation, literally, but it's not like the Bears were going to play any less hard if they didn't have this playoff opportunity. But they have this playoff opportunity. The defense is full strength. Jacksonville's just a bad offense, even when it is at full strength. I mean, who are we really feeling good about this season on this Jacksonville offense anyway? It's DJ Chark as a wide receiver 3, cross your fingers play, and no one else.
Let's move to Cincinnati. Oh, sorry, Jake, did you say something?
No, it's just gross. I don't even think Chark hasn't even been on the same page as any of these quarterbacks of recent.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't. I've got Chark on a bench behind CeeDee Lamb. I wouldn't feel good about Chark either.
Oh, well, that makes. I think that's okay. I mean, even if
I'd play
even if Minshew was the
put it this way,
quarterback,
I'd play both Bengals wide receivers over DJ Chark at this point.
There you go.
Funny you bring that up because we're moving on to Cincinnati, Houston. T. Higgins going to be a top blank wide receiver this week, Jake.
T. Higgins will be
teeing you up.
T. Higgins will be top 30, and A.J. Green will be top 40. I have him. That's where I have him. And I think there's even potential for a little bit more because it's down to 2. You know, no Tyler Boyd. Sure, they'll sprinkle other people in, but you're looking at Ryan Finley. He's not going to be throwing 35 passes. You just have to hope that of 25 passes for Ryan Finley, they all just go to T. Higgins and A.J. Green, and that he doesn't look to whoever they use as the third most option. And I don't know who it might be today. It could be they have about 2 or 3 choices they could throw out there, but I think you see a lot of Gio, and that's why I like him. You just run on Houston. Everybody can run on Houston, but with that secondary, and then on top of it, which I just mentioned, they lost another player today. I think that you look at Higgins could potentially have a home run situation. I have Higgins and AJ Green in 2 of my lineups just because I'm going for it. I'm already down. I already faced Kamara. How did I face Kamara in so many damn places?
AJ Green and T Higgins in the same game?
No, 2 different teams. Two different teams.
That would have been a move, Jake. We would have all respected you for.
I will say I'm not going to lie, and I do have both in one of my DFS lineups.
This could be all right.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I initially had to pivot off. I had a ton of Baker.
Bengals.
Yeah, I originally had a ton of Baker, Landry, and Higgins. So Rashard Higgins. So I had to throw all those lineups out.
I just love the state of Ohio today.
What a terrible. I mean, if you, obviously people are struggling right now with this Jarvis Landry. If they had Jarvis Landry, it just sucks, man. If you started
well, it's good news if you're in Ohio. You can go out on a scenic drive looking at all the cornfields for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles.
There you go.
That's comforting. Beller, I think I know the answer to this. And T. Higgins, we talked about Le'Veon Bell a little bit, but just contextualizing T. Higgins, are you as high on him as Jake is? Like, would you put him against Le'Veon Bell in a flex play?
I am not quite as high as Jake, and I agree with what Jake said earlier about the general way you make a running back versus wide receiver decision. The running back typically has the floor, the wide receiver typically has the ceiling. But I go back to what I said earlier about Le'Veon Bell and just liking what he can do when given an opportunity to be out there for 15-plus touches in a Kansas City offense against Atlanta. Just it feels like the right play to me. I would rather have Bell in there than Higgins.
Jake, we got any breaking news? It's 11:30ish. Is anything coming out with Inactives that we should be concerned about?
No,
right.
It's not. You
nothing,
still got about 10 minutes.
Dwayne Haskins is starting, which was expected.
Oh, I didn't expect that. I really thought Alex Smith.
No, yeah,
was
I
yesterday.
thought it'd be Alex Smith.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that was Ian Rappaport's guy, and here's Schefter also. Haskins.
I was going to say we want to make sure we get the Schefter.
Does that mess up Antonio Gibson?
Also.
Does that mess up Antonio Gibson for you guys?
No impact whatsoever with Haskins and Alex Smith. It's essentially the same low floor. You're not changing the situation for them.
Jakey, we looking David Johnson to blow up today?
Do we think he's going to? No, because he blew up last week, and it took 10 damn receptions to blow up.
Oh, Jake, family show, Jake.
He's not doing much in the run game. Kudos to anybody who used him on DraftKings last week to get the bonus. That's really what you're expecting, a 10 reception bonus on DraftKings. But look, that's really what it comes down to. Is it's just volume of touches against Cincinnati. So I have him as a top 15 running back. I actually think that's both his floor and ceiling. I think that's right around where he's going to finish. I just don't see David Johnson reaching 150 yards. And look at the guys he has to leap past right now. So to get into the side of the top 5, there's only really about one spot left with all the people that have already played. So I just don't see him getting that high.
Wait, I got to bring this question up because I want you to feel bad, Jake. Look at Borkovic. His opponent did what you told him to do, and now this is the other side of it, Jake. This is the side you never think of. He's stuck with this choice.
That's why you got to prepare.
All right, so answer his question, both of you.
Rivers.
Agreed.
I got a Chad Hansen question, and I just saw this shocky question up here. Chad Hansen or Jalen Guyton at flex.
Hansen. Mike Williams is playing. Mike Williams is okay now. So I know everybody's jumping all over the Guyton and Tyron Johnson situation, but don't forget Mike Williams is still there. Mike Williams is now the number one. It's not like they're both out again.
He was Jalen Guyton and Tyron Johnson before they were, and Chad Hansen has been getting targets from Deshaun. So especially
Cincinnati.
Yeah. Well, Beller, expand on that actually, because Chad Hansen, I was very surprised by this, and I thought I missed something.
Yeah,
when I go and look at the CBS most added, Chad Hansen was top 5, and I'm sitting what happened? So who did 4 guys go out with COVID? And I get it, like the Chad Hansen's been hot lately, but I don't know if he's championship week most added material. But please, give me the Chad Hansen.
Well, you got to understand what you're working with, too. I mean, we're talking week 16. There weren't a ton of guys to add at this point. And Chad Hansen in the 3 games since Will Fuller's suspension, 7 targets, 3 targets, 5, 7, and 2 in terms of receptions, 101, 56, 55 yards. He scored a touchdown last week. I mean, if you're being realistic about what's going to be available to you on the waiver wire in week 16, Chad Hansen looks pretty good. You throw in a matchup with Cincinnati, you throw in the fact that he's tied to Deshaun Watson. I think it all adds up. I still wouldn't feel great about him as anything more than a desperation wide receiver 3 play. Maybe I'm in a deeper league and I feel a little bit better about him than that. Maybe I'm in a 14-teamer or something like that, and I've got to roll someone like Chad Hansen out there. But given the context of the situation that we find ourselves in week 16, I understand why Chad Hansen's getting picked up and played in certain spots. I think he could be a nice little wide receiver 3 play for you.
Would you guys want Chad Hansen or Curtis Samuel in a PPR? Jake, you take that.
Samuel.
I would actually, for everything you just said, I would just go Hansen. I think
Samuel. Look at that.
No, because Samuel is just so boom or bust that I'd rather go with Hansen, who's got a very similar ceiling, but I know he's got the better floor at this point because Samuel's still number 3. Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore are still going to do their thing. And let's talk about the matchup. I don't really like much of any of the Panthers today. I want to bench Mike Davis if I can. For your answer, by the way, also, we do have breaking news. Mark Ingram is also inactive again.
Wow.
So
Healthy scratch Mark Ingram, man.
J.K. Dobbins all on board. Because one thing about the Giants is they're weaker against outside runs than they are inside because they run that 3-4 and they essentially have like 3 defensive tackles running on the defensive line. So Gus Edwards is actually riskier than he has been. He really needs a touchdown to save his day. J.K. Dobbins and Lamar Jackson are probably just going to eat up this defense today.
Jake, thank you for that transition because Giants-Baltimore was the next thing on our list here.
I'm not even looking at the show sheet today.
Well, I know. What I did was I built it with you in mind.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that was it.
Or am I just that damn good?
Well, Jake, the swearing today, can we just tone it down a little bit, please? By the way, Jake's got to go in about 18 minutes because he updates his rankings. So for those of you who are just like sweating hard, you can go to the
choke
Athletic.
on my water.
I don't know. You Google search it. Google search Jake Seeley Week 16 rankings. You should be able to find it. There's a deal. I think it's like $3.99 a month. Do it for a month. Do it for pay $4 to get Jake's rankings today.
I think
it's worth it.
Still $1 a week too. Oh, that actually works out to about the same.
It actually depends. Like whenever you click it, I think there's a rotating offer. They're all very good. It's a big discount on the Athletic, like all the Athletic. I would suggest sticking around.
I was going to drop the link in the comments, but then I realized you can't click on the video link.
Yeah.
No, because if we put it on the video, you can't.
I understand.
I could go to YouTube. I'll post it on YouTube for people.
What a guy Jake is. All right, post it on YouTube, and if you need if you need Jake's brain, that's where he puts it for the half hour that he's not on the show when he gets off. Let's talk about this Baltimore game, though. Well, this Giants-Baltimore game. Daniel Jones is back. Beller, bad idea, man. Last time we saw Daniel Jones, like the theme was this week, way too soon to come back from this ankle sprain, and he looks bad. Is he going to hurt the Giants more than he helps them?
I mean, I don't think you could say that because the alternative is Colt McCoy. He's not going to help them. This is going to be, I think, a game that is dominated start to finish by the Baltimore Ravens. Daniel Jones should be nowhere near your fantasy lineup unless you are like the shrug emoji come to life.
Hey, thanks, Billy. By the way, I do like the shrug emoji thing. I just saw this one pop in there. Anytime someone says something good about the Athletic, I get a ding in my head, and I have to put it on the screen.
Let's talk to some bankers. Take this thing public.
Hey, Bella, let me follow up with this, though. Like, Daniel Jones started the year, like, loved Darius Slayton. And it just seems like this Darius Slayton was, like, on this trajectory, and then just, I know there's an injury involved in there, too, but is there something to be said that maybe if you got Darius Slayton and he's on the kind of precipice of your flex, that having Daniel Jones back might benefit him a little bit?
I mean, I don't know. I think there was an argument that I myself made earlier this season, or really coming into the season, that Darius Slayton brought something unique to the Giants offense, that he found some duplicative skills in Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard and even Evan Ingram to a certain extent. I know Darius Slayton started the year with a couple of good games, but we've just seen so little from this offense in general that I wouldn't feel great about it. I will say number 2 and 3 corners for Baltimore out today. Marcus Peters out today, so the matchup softens a little bit, but still, you're talking about trusting the Giants' offense. And I think if we've learned anything in the NFL over the last few years, it's that we can talk about matchup all we want, but offense drives the thing. Offense drives the discussion here, and an offense still needs to be capable of taking advantage of those potential matchup deficiencies. And I just don't see what we've seen from the Giants passing game or from Daniel Jones this season that suggests to us that he or they can take the advantage of that.
And Nando, next question goes to Beller too. Barkley's scratching at the door. I got to take her out real quick.
Okay,
yeah.
Barkley is Jake's dog. All right, Beller, you and I are going to talk Cleveland Jets. And by that is, I agree, that was a nice use of duplicative. When Jake comes back, we'll answer some more questions. We'll let Jake go. We'll talk Jock Market plays, which are very, like, here are Beller's Jock Market plays, just for a little teaser. Matt Ryan, Darrell Henderson, Aaron Jones, Brandon Cooks. So those are players you're going to want to hear about. It's not just like this Jock Market love fest. It's good advice. Anyway, let's go to this well, of course it's the Jets, but I guess it's the Browns happening in the Jets game. Beller, we talked a little bit earlier about everything, so if you're just joining in, rewind to the start because we went through this game a lot. I actually want to talk about the Jets for a second. Do you have any idea, A, what this game script's going to look like, and B, who that will benefit? Because I feel like this is a Denzel Mims game. Now that the Jets, I guess Jacksonville could win, and the Jets could still, get that number one pick. But now that, everybody seemingly is just trying and saying, screw it, let's win out. Is Denzel Mims, is he a sneaky little guy you could slide in there?
I think so. I mean, he's got the ceiling on this team. Like Jake said earlier, Jamison Crowder is really a floor play, and if he gets in the end zone, then he gives you a good game. But if someone's going to blow up, if you came to me, 4.5 hours from now and said, guess what Jets receiver had 10 for 150 and 2, I would say it's probably Denzel Mims who did that. So that is, when you frame it that way, then yes, it can be a Denzel Mims blow-up game. But we were just talking about this with the Giants. You still need to find these sort of foundational elements in an offense that suggest they're going to be able to do these things. And we just really haven't seen that from the Jets. And you've got a healthy Myles Garrett on the other side of the ball. You've got a Cleveland team that should be able to dominate this game on the ground and really control the game. This is what we saw from Cleveland earlier in the season before Baker Mayfield really got going over the last month. And you really need to build it out on both sides. You need to build it out on not only the offensive side, but the defensive side. And I could just see Cleveland really controlling the tempo of this game, and that's going to be bad for the Jets. So Denzel Mims, so many of the guys we've talked about here, he falls into that boomer bust wide receiver 3 bucket of players where you don't feel great about playing him, but you know what the potential is for him in your lineup.
Jake, last question. I mean, we could talk about Cleveland until we're dead, but I do feel like it's important maybe the Sam Darnold. Maybe I read too much Salfino, but I don't know. Maybe if you're super flexing or if you're just kind of screwed, like someone picked up all the quarterbacks and you can't grab anybody. Sam Darnold in this game, Cleveland's also missing a couple of defensive players. It's not just all the wide receivers. Is there a chance Sam Darnold can maybe get you 16.5 points?
No.
Okay, thank you. Let's get to some questions.
I would have, and it would have been the right call. I had C.J. Beathard in front of him. That's how bad Sam Darnold is.
All right, fair. So you don't have the same thoughts as Salfino. Let's go. Pollard or Zeke from Nick Adler. What's up, man?
What's up, Nick?
Just text one of us, man. It's a VIP line. Let's go to Jake since you gave such a truncated answer. Pollard or Zeke?
I have Zeke 2 spots in front of Pollard. Look, Pollard's been looking better, but they both have the same issue, is that Pollard looked better because of the receiving game and also because San Francisco sold out to try and stop the game at that point. Well, to get the ball back. Before that, it was the touchdown that saved him to stay in the passing game. They're still playing behind the same poor offensive line. I'll play Zeke if he's playing because he really wants to and he knows what the situation is. And what the situation is, Zeke's worried about his job at this point because he hasn't been looking that great. So I'm still going to go Zeke if he's playing, but that's not even a guarantee. They could still bench him today because they re-signed Waluigi. They re-signed him from the practice
Jake,
squad. Come on, Waluigi's better than...
That's a tall running back.
Yeah, Waluigi? Yeah, it'd be really a threat there.
Lanky running back than we're used to seeing.
All right, next question. Let's go. Hey, Nick. Shout out, Nick. Sean Kelly, good morning. Weathered a hell of a championship storm so far. Swift, Kyler, now Higgins. Wow. Man, this sucks.
All right.
Swift,
get to the
Kyler,
question.
now Higgins.
Jeff Wilson, I mean.
Yeah, he's got, what a strange lineup to get you here. Can I confidently trot out Hooper over Ebron and PPR?
And Baltimore or Cleveland defense. So the defenses to me is easy. I mean, I'm rolling Baltimore out there. Love this matchup with the Giants. Just like I talked about with the Giants not being able to take advantage, the reverse of that, Baltimore can take advantage. I like Ebron better, and I might be in a minority on that one too, but we have just seen a relatively steady floor of targets for Ebron that we haven't necessarily seen from Austin Hooper, and so I think that is something you're going to want to lean on more than the belief that the wide receivers for Cleveland being out is going to lead to some sort of production increase for Austin Hooper.
All right. Next question, and you're welcome. Jake, Kiki QT or DJ Moore? This is good. We haven't really talked about these guys yet. Kiki QT or DJ Moore in a PPR?
I'm still going Moore, and I'm not even the biggest Moore guy. I mean, here's the thing: is I can't get Moore right. And that's why I said, I think it was week 10, where I said DJ Moore is just going to be wide receiver 20 from now on. It's been wide receiver 2022, but because that kind of straddles the fence, and I hate to do this with players, but the DJ Moore situation, here's why you understand and why you might want to play QT, is he's Amari Cooper before Dak Prescott. You're getting a top 10 performance, or you're getting wide receiver 40. He doesn't seem to split the difference a lot, so I'm splitting the difference because do you want that upside risk? Then go with DJ Moore. It's a very bad matchup. I keep bringing this up. I think Washington's going to get after Teddy, who's been sacked a lot the past couple games. But DJ Moore is the home run playmaker that he is because he's so talented, just like Marquise Brown, just like T.Y. Hilton, just like the rest of them.
Jake, you only got a green and black whiteboard marker there?
No, I have green, blue. The red one ran out. I was going to do red, but
that's weird. Just, I don't know. Could use some more color.
I'm sorry, the red one ran out.
I think it looks nice. I think it's festive.
I don't even know where where did I put the markers? There.
More questions. Gibson or Gio? Bella, which way are you going?
I mean, I think you have to go Gio. I hate it. I mean, I really, even though we saw what he did last week, I just don't want to trust Cincinnati's offense whatsoever. But Jake's made the argument multiple times here today, and I think he's right. I mean, Antonio Gibson, they can say all the right things about him, but what happens if he goes out and the toe's just not right? I mean, there's a big, big risk to starting Antonio Gibson. There at least is no touch risk associated with Giovanni Bernard. He's going to get the touches. It might not go well. It could be very ugly, and even last week, he was really saved by touchdowns. I mean, it was from an efficiency standpoint, the numbers just weren't there for Giovanni Bernard, so I don't see how you expect that to change for him until maybe next year, so long as he's still in Cincinnati and Joe Burrow's healthy. But the touch floor is going to be there, and Antonio Gibson, we just can't say that about him. Gibson's the ceiling, Gio's the floor.
Hey, Jake, we know you got to leave in like 8 minutes, but can you
Hold on, I added more color. I added more color for you.
Well, that looks like the mind of a psychopath. I can't even read that right now. It's so small on my screen.
Bite me, Nando.
I don't think that's what it says. But Jake, before we get to Paul's question, and he specifically requested you, right now, as you dip in and you're like, all right, I got to leave in 8 minutes. Here are the 3 things I've really, really got to change in my rankings. What are they going to be? Like, what are the first 3 things you're going to go in and change, or maybe 1 or 2, whatever. But like, just give us something that you're just going to run and do based on whatever's happened in the last couple hours.
Look at news. I'm going to see what the Pittsburgh situation is with James Conner. I'm going to see. Well, we already got most of the other reports. The problem is nothing else is until 4:00. So that there's probably going to be very little movement in the rankings because unfortunately the Cowboys are at 4, and that's one of the things we're waiting to see. We fortunately got the Washington news, but outside of that, that's pretty much it. There's not a lot to change this week, fortunately. I guess maybe good and bad.
Championship week. Check the link. All right, Jake, let's talk to Paul. He can't check the link for this one. He wants some Survivor advice. It's actually more of a Beller question, but let's go for Jake anyway.
I'll get
Jake's
Beller's
still,
answer too. I'm
yeah,
still
I mean,
alive.
Answer, but Jake's alive in a Survivor pool.
360 people. This is the first time I've ever made it to week 16, and there's still 30 people left. Get the hell out of here, people.
Let's all knock on wood right now for Jake, everybody. Please, group knock on wood for Jake.
I am going Chicago. I don't have Washington. I'm not touching Philly and Dallas. There's no way. That could go any different direction. I don't have the Washington choice, so I would probably go, if it was my pick, I think Washington wins against Carolina. They're going for this division. I mentioned all my concerns about Carolina. I would go Washington and Chicago. The Houston, just Cincinnati, Houston. You're talking about 2 miserable defenses and 2 offenses. I feel good about Houston, but I feel better about Washington, Beller.
I would go Chicago and Houston, but I understand what Jake's saying. I don't think Cincinnati's built to take advantage of Houston's defense. I just don't really see that being an option for them. So, yeah, I'll take them. But I agree. I think Washington wins this game, too. We're seeing a lot of love for Carolina. We're seeing a lot of love for Carolina getting the 2.5 that they're getting in this game also in the sharp market. And, yeah, I understand it from a certain standpoint with not wanting to trust Dwayne Haskins. But, Christian McCaffrey's the motor of this offense, and we've seen them stall quite a bit when he's been out, which has been for the balance of this season. I do think that Washington wins this game, but I would rank these Chicago, Houston, Washington, and definitely not touching Philly, Dallas.
For me, it's Philly, dude. Like I just think Philly has that Nick Foles vibe going. Anyway, who cares about that? Let's move along. I saw a question up. Let's get back to it. Keenan Allen or Woods? JK.
Woods. There's zero risk for zero reason to risk Keenan Allen at this point unless you're just desperate, and that's not a desperate situation.
All right, Jakey's only got a limited amount of time. Let's bang a lot of these out and help as many people as possible. It's the holiday season. 198 to 26.
So do.
Opponent still has Eckler, Gio, Miles Sanders.
Don't care.
All right.
Okay.
Would you play Gibson or DK at flex?
DK.
Yep. All right. Nice, easy answer for you, Zoom Bays. Killer for killer. What's up? Legit question. Do I start Mecole Hardman or Jalen Guyton? That's an interesting one. That's a deep league. We like you. Belly, what do you think?
McCole, like we said earlier, with Mike Williams in there, Jalen Guyton's opportunities are going to be cut, and he has not taken huge advantage of his opportunities anyway. Mecole Hardman, just bet on the Chiefs. When in doubt, bet on the Chiefs.
Well, the biggest thing here is Hardman plays at 1, and if Keenan Allen suits up, he's at least until Keenan Allen leaves the game, he's going to limit even more opportunities for Guyton, unfortunately.
Right.
Gotcha. All right, next. PPR, Deontay Johnson, DJ Moore, Singletary.
I would go Deontay. You know that. He's the guy.
You get a thumbs up from a drinking Beller. Next question. Rapid fire. Ian Wiles. Hey, gents, I need a play instead of Landry. Landry's out, obviously. Robbie Anderson to Kiki QT, Beller. Or an even bigger dart. Is there someone out there who you might want to slide in there?
I like this setup here, Jake. Robbie Anderson. Give me the Joaquin Phoenix. Turn this way. Robbie Anderson. Oh, come on. Robbie Anderson. You know, we actually talked about this on a Athletic Fantasy Football podcast earlier this week, wondering if Robbie Anderson, the downward trend we've seen from him, makes him benchable. And I think it does, but I still want to play him in this one over Kiki QT because of the ceiling that we've seen from Robbie so far this season. And QT just, was that really that one game? And we know what sort of player Kiki QT is, relatively limited. The floor is fine. Robbie Anderson's just a better receiver. And so that's what I'm trusting here.
Man, dude, you know what? Like, all these weeks of doing all these shows, we really haven't talked a lot of Robbie Anderson. It's been a lot of Samuel.
Because he's been relevant twice.
Yeah, I know. It's weird. Like, he started out and everyone's like, oh, my, another Gase guy. And he kind of, I think he was hurt. He dropped off. Anyway.
He slowed down in the second half in a big way, that's for sure.
Let's not know more Jakey and Beller. A couple more questions before Jake's got to go. My Baker pick backfired. That sucks, man. Quarterback help for my Super Bowl. Russell Wilson, Mitch Trubisky. Oh, you still got pretty good choices here, Jake. Who are we going with?
I can't believe I'm doing a Mitchell Trubisky against Jacksonville.
Hey, I'm starting Mitchell Trubisky in a championship game this week. So,
see, I don't ever trust Jared Goff. He is the definition of he is the Amari Cooper of quarterbacks, the Jared Cook quarter. Actually, Jared Cook's the better one because Jared Goff, when he's supposed to go off, doesn't, and then when he's supposed to have a bad matchup, he does, and then sometimes it's just you can never predict Jared Goff. I think Mitchell Trubisky against Jacksonville. Russell Wilson got 9.9 last time against the Rams.
Like this Russell Wilson slide into mediocrity.
They're running the ball.
I know. It's just I don't know. It's interesting.
They closed the kitchen.
It's not mediocrity, but whatever.
Well, that was Jake's word earlier when he meant to say the S word. Jake, how about one more before you go? One more before Jake House.
One more.
DJ Moore, Corey Davis from Chris Picone.
2 minutes. We can get a few more.
All right, a few more. Let's go.
I'm going Corey Davis in this matchup.
Keep knocking these out. We'll bang out like Le'Veon Bell or Chris Carson in full PPR.
Chris Carson.
Carson.
Back-to-back in Jake's rankings. Is that going to change, Jake?
No.
Let me fact
what would change with these guys?
Look at that. There's a sneak preview of what you get from Jake Steely.
It's Chris Carson. I would say, even though they're back-to-back, I feel like it's a relatively easy decision to make.
Well, so here's the other thing, Nando, is I told people I actually can't even manipulate PPR rankings with this stupid table. That's why we're doing our table ourselves next year. If anything looks weird on PPR, I tell people to ask. So that's legitimate. I don't know if they're back-to-back and Bell's first, I would still go Carson. I can't manipulate PPR.
All right. Next. Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
Beller's going to say Allen. I say Hurts.
I'm going Allen. They're back-to-back for Jake, and that's for real. Look at what Josh Allen's done this year in the MVP discussion with good reason. I can't sit him for a guy who's looked great, but who's looked great in 2 games. Josh Allen's looked great in 15.
I just can't see a way.
Way more risk with Hurts. Let's be honest. Way more risk with Hurts.
Yeah, but it's so much more fun.
Is it?
It's
Josh Allen's super fun. What are you talking about?
Why does Darren get 2 questions?
Josh Allen has been one of the arguably most fun players of the season.
For Darren, again, no reason to risk Allen. No reason at all to risk it. Just go Cup.
Yes, I am leaning and falling all the way over to Cooper
Kupp. Humboldt Parker, Gibson or
Sanders. Stop. We don't need to risk these injured players.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Jay.
What I don't understand also is these guys have plenty of Miles Sanders has immense upside. He's Miles Sanders. He was a first-round pick. He's still
Miles Sanders
great.
was top 5, 2 weeks ago on 14 catches or something?
Yeah. Miles Sanders, 100%.
All right, well, one more, then we'll let Jakey go.
Yeah, 14 for 115 and 2 touchdowns against the Saints defense.
A lot of upside.
Yeah.
I like this question. I think Le'Veon Bell's not getting the respect he deserves, but
no, because Darrell Williams gets the passing game working. That's the concern with Le'Veon Bell.
But Le'Veon Bell can catch. Like, it's not like
it's not that he can't catch. This is similar to my Aaron Jones problem. It's the team. It's the team's use. It has nothing to do with Le'Veon Bell.
But maybe the teams used to be a little different with Edward Celera.
No, they already did that. They already used Darrell. They had that happen already.
Yeah, you're right. Good point.
So for full PPR, Bell's the floor. If I'm going for the home run, I'm going Mike Williams.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jake, the all-in kid, Sealy's got to go.
On Twitter.
I am Jake, the all-in kid who does rankings at imgreat@gmail.com if you want to send them your thoughts on the show or anything. Jake, good luck. I think everyone wishes you a happy new year. Godspeed. And get a red marker for crying out loud, man.
Oh, I'm sorry. It ran out and it run right to the store to go get one just to satiate your needs.
Pyramid of needs. All right, Jake. Everyone wave bye to Jake virtually if you're watching. Just wave to your screen. Oh, bye, Jakey.
Yeah.
Oh, thank God he's gone.
Oh,
all right, let's
God.
get
Been waiting an hour for this moment.
Whoops. Reminder, you can if you're watching this on YouTube, you can scroll up. Jake dropped the link to the rankings that he's about to go update, which won't have a ton of changes. So if you're not getting your question answered, if you got some other stuff, if you want some reassurance, go check it out. Right now we're going to move on to Jock Market. We got 4 players that we're going to talk about with Beller. And by the way, Jock Market presenting this show without commercials, which is very kind of them. For you, you don't have to skip ad or sit through a 15-second thing here in the middle. Very cool app. Very cool engine, very cool game design and idea. Go to the Jock Market app right now, and you can put in Athletic 10 and get a $10 free play, match play, whatever it is. When you put a deposit in, they'll just give you $10 just for watching the show. So Athletic 10, if you just want to try it out, $10, maybe get some money in your stocking.
Yeah,
Bella, let's do this.
Let's do it.
So I know you got Matt Ryan as your quarterback, but I want to skip him for a second and go right to Darrell Henderson because I've just been itching since you put his I'm like Darrell Henderson's number 1, probably number 2 behind Emery, maybe number 3 behind Jake, but I love the guy. What is it that's compelling you? I mean, obviously the obvious answer is Cam Akers, but
yes.
Why Darrell Henderson in a sea of guys who have opportunities because of injuries? What is it that's making him look really good to you?
Just what we've seen from him when Cam Akers was not in the picture. Week 2, 12 carries, 81 yards, and a touchdown. Caught 2 passes for 40 yards. Week 3, 20 carries for 114 yards. Scored a touchdown. Week 5, gave you 68 yards from scrimmage and a touchdown. Week 6, 14 carries, 88 yards. Week 7, 15 carries, 63 yards. I mean, when Cam Akers has not been in the picture, the Rams have been comfortable leaning on Darrell Henderson. Malcolm Brown's going to be involved, but Darrell Henderson is going to be the guy insofar as Sean McVay prefers one of them to be the guy. And in the Jock Market context, when you're really just looking for someone to outperform what you're going to have to buy him at, that's enough to really feel good about Darrell Henderson. And just for the sake of discussion, I do have him as part of my season-long decision-making process today as well. So Darrell Henderson, I feel pretty good about playing his way into the RB2 group, potentially pushing himself into the top 20 and being a nice guy to give you a return on Jock Market.
Hey, Bill, let me rewind this for a second because a lot of people who are watching here maybe aren't familiar with, maybe are watching for the first time, haven't gotten the explanation on how to play Jock Market. It is a stock market game. So if you go on right now, I think the IPO part is already over. You got to wait till the game starts to try and buy some stocks of Darrell Henderson, correct?
Yeah, basically what the very basic explanation is you're looking for guys who are going to outperform what their expectations are. And so that's at least where we start off. And then as the games go on, the prices fluctuate and you can trade as guys are playing. And maybe you think a guy who hasn't started well is going to do well in the second half, or a guy who has started well has hit a peak and is going to come down a little bit. So you play around with that. But when we're talking about here is basically just very simply looking for guys who are going to outperform what their original base IPO price is. And with the opportunity that I expect Darrell Henderson to get, I think he can be one of those prime guys. We don't need him to be RB1. We just need him to be better than what he is expected to be. And I think that that's going to be on the table for him against the Seahawks this afternoon.
All right, maybe looking at your quarterback, Matt Ryan, quarterbacks are so much easier to contextualize within the Jock Market game. If Matt Ryan's having a crappy first half, his Jock Market price is going to be low because people are trying to sell him off and not end the game with Matt Ryan in their pocket. If you think he's due for a big second half, you buy him at like $7, and he could end up going for 14 by the time the game's over. He has a big second half. I'm not saying this is why you have Matt Ryan. I'm just trying to give people an explanation of how this game works and how much fun it can be if you're just playing live. Maybe if you're out of the playoffs, maybe you're just sitting around, want to get some skin in the game, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but what I like about Matt Ryan this week is really going back to what we saw from him a week ago. We always have questions about Matt Ryan whenever Julio Jones is out, and those questions are well-founded. We've seen him really flounder when Julio hasn't been available to him. But last week against Tampa, completes nearly 70% of his passes, 356 yards, 3 touchdowns. It gives you a good feeling about him being able to succeed against a defense that can get after him a little bit. Without Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley has developed into a star this season. We're going to be talking about him as a top 10 fantasy wide receiver next year, as we should be, even if Julio Jones is alongside him there in Atlanta. I think maybe the torch gets passed and Julio gives it up to Calvin Ridley as the best receiver there for the Falcons next season. But I like the fact that he showed us that a week ago. I like that Matt Ryan showed us that he can, even in a losing effort, give you a really good game without Julio Jones. And this should be a high-scoring game. Kansas City can create some havoc in Atlanta's backfield, but this should be a game, I think, that we see push up into the 50s combined. So I like Matt Ryan to be able to not quite keep pace with Patrick Mahomes, but still have himself a game akin to what we saw from him last week.
We got some weather going on in Green Bay today. We've got. I saw a couple questions in the queue about it. We've had some weather stuff before. We've had a little bit of snow before. We've had a lot of wind before. But you got Aaron Jones at running back today. Could be a pretty popular guy, within Jock Market, within games, wherever, because of the snow situation in Green Bay, correct?
Absolutely, and another big thing here is that Jamal Williams is unlikely to play. And
course,
Aaron Jones, no doubt about it, the better running back in Green Bay, but you can't really argue with the way that the Packers use these two backs to the effect of resulting in wins for the Packers. We would love to see Aaron Jones be a locked-in 25-touch per game guy every single week. That's just not his reality, and it's because Jamal Williams is a good running back in his own right, and they use them very well together. But with Jamal Williams likely out, we are going to see the full-on Aaron Jones show tonight. And it's crazy to think that we don't even see the full-on Aaron Jones show, and he goes 20 for 145 and a touchdown last week, or he goes 15 for 130 and a touchdown a couple of weeks ago, or you go all the way back to week 2, he goes 18 for 168 and a couple of touchdowns, plus 68 receiving yards and a touchdown. I mean, a fully unleashed Aaron Jones against a bad Tennessee defense in a game that has an over-under pushing up to 56. I mean, all the pieces are there for Aaron Jones to have not just a big game, but I think the RB1 game this week, minus what we saw from Alvin Kamara on Friday.
And here we go. I wasn't trying to ignore you. I was trying to look up Kevin Roth, the weather guy on Twitter, who's the Roto Grinders guy. He says it's going to be a snow game.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can I just read this? Is that cool to read it? It was Roto Grinders. Everyone check out Roto Grinders and Kevin Roth. Kevin Roth WX, I believe, on Twitter. Snow looks likely before and during the game, especially early. We're looking at maybe 3 inches total. Most of that should fall before the game. Not bad. Best guess at in-game snow totals would be maybe an inch or 2. All right, I don't want to read the whole thing. Go check it out on Roto Grinders if you'd like.
Yeah. Wind is really what you're looking for, but either way, Aaron Jones is going to be a strong play. I mean, he's got to get 25 touches in this game.
Man, I tell you what, Beller, I went to buy some A.J. Dillon cards. And
I bet you did.
Well, look, I got a buddy when we have a team together, and he just made us hold on to A.J. Dillon all year long. Yeah. And it was more of not a mockery gift because we both went to Boston College. But he loves Boston College more than anything in the world. Obviously, he went there. Dude, you can tell when people are chasing a guy when you don't get him for the $5 or $6, especially the Leaf ones. AJ Dillon, I think some people have some. Obviously, you're not going to play him in a championship week, but I think some people have some faith in AJ Dillon at least going forward. Maybe we got a column on our site right now that talks about AJ Dillon being a big guy next year with the free agency departures.
Yeah, Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams could both be gone from this team, and it's a strong bet that at least one of them is going to be gone from this team. So A.J. Dillon's going to have a much larger role to play for the Packers in 2021, but we will worry about that in, July of 2021.
Let's bring it back to Brandon Cooks. Go. Brandon Cooks,
we've talked about this game quite a bit, and something we keep coming back to is that this is a great matchup for the Houston passing game. And Brandon Cooks, even with Kiki Kuti having the role that he's developed for himself, Chad Hansen turning himself into someone who we actually talk about with some fantasy relevance, Brandon Cooks is still the obvious number one receiver. And Deshaun Watson, I mean, the guy doesn't get enough credit for what he's done this season. I think we've talked about it so much that he is starting to get the credit, and I don't mean you and me and us here at The Athletic, but the football watching and pontificating world has talked about Deshaun Watson to get him the credit that he deserves for this season. Everything crumbling around him in Houston. An 0-4 start. They fire the head coach, and Deshaun Watson is still just putting up monster numbers. So really hope that they can turn things around there, because Deshaun Watson should be a playoff guy. I mean, we should be watching Deshaun Watson in January, not turning things off for him in December. But the point of this is that Brandon Cooks is tied to Deshaun Watson. Brandon Cooks is his number one receiver. Cincinnati hasn't stopped anyone through the air. Cincinnati is definitely ready for the season just to be over, for no one else to get hurt, because they already got to think about Joe Burrow and when he's ready to come back in 2021. I think we see a monster game out of Brandon Cooks, and this is another guy who in Jock Market is being priced more like a low-end wide receiver 2, high-end wide receiver 3, who certainly has wide receiver 1 upside, and I would be pretty surprised if he didn't give you at least wide receiver 2 numbers today.
All right, shout out to Jock Market once again. I know we say that a lot, but they're sponsoring the show, basically making this all possible, allowing us to answer your questions. So thank you, Jock Market. Use code Athletic10 if you want to download it. Just mess around. You get $10 when you make a deposit. Let's go. Let's take a look at this. Who do we got? Chargers. Jeez, man. Maybe I should leave this on my screen. Chargers, Denver.
Yes.
Philip Lindsay's on the IR. Obviously, Melvin
Yes.
Gordon benefits.
Yes.
Joey Bosa out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think if you have Melvin Gordon, you start, especially with this news. But I mean, does Philip Lindsay being out have some kind of domino effect with the rest of the offense? Like, does that help KJ Hamler a little bit? A couple of touches going to him. How do you shake out this Denver situation?
Yeah, I think it has to help pretty much everyone involved, right? I mean, Melvin Gordon's the obvious beneficiary. I think everyone else, Noah Fant, Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, can all get a little bit of a bump. I don't think it's the sort of bump that crosses a start-sit threshold, though. I think you were probably already starting Noah Fant, so whatever. I think it's not enough to make me change the way I'm treating Jerry Jeudy or KJ Hamler, is basically the way to put that.
Man, so I help, we all help people with their teams, friends, parents, friends, family, friends.
Mm-hmm.
We had TJ Hawkinson and Noah Fant. And last week we started Hawkinson, and this week I'm like, let's go for Hawkinson. So,
yeah,
sorry,
I would have
John.
done the same.
Who
knows what happens if Matthew Stafford doesn't hurt his ankle on literally the first possession of that game?
Right. Oh well. Austin Eckler. We're gonna look back at him as this. I mean, you're starting him, but is he gonna be like a league winner? Is this the kind of guy who could just like crank out a 140-yard game next couple weeks? Well,
yeah, I mean, we've seen it. Yeah, we've seen it from him. I mean, of course, this is what you expect from Austin Eckler. This is why he was a late first, early second round pick, and so of course that he can bring that to the table here today. Keenan Allen being certainly not at 100% and maybe not even playing in this game could add to his touch load. So yeah, Austin Eckler definitely could be someone who ends up being a league winner. I think we should be treating him as a top 10 running back.
You know what, man? So we got this Philly-Dallas game up next, but like we've hit it. We talked a bunch about Jalen Hurts. We talked about the Dallas backfield. We haven't talked about the Dallas wide receivers, though. You mentioned CeeDee Lamb earlier in the show, Bella.
Yeah.
You have faith in him, or you're just chasing that upside?
I'm mostly chasing just the target floor that we've seen from him really all season, but comfortably with Andy Dalton. 7 targets last week, only 2 the game before that, but 9 before that, 7 before that, 6 before that, 7 before that. You can pretty much rely on CeeDee Lamb getting 6+ looks in this game. And that's enough for me to go against this Philadelphia defense. I feel pretty good about that. It's a Jarvis Landry replacement is what it's for me in the real world. I would be playing Jarvis Landry in this spot if he were playing. So that's the main reason why I'm starting him, full disclosure. But it's not like I felt like, stomach punch. I have to start CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah.
I do think that the targets are going to be there for him.
On this Philly side, I hate to be that guy, but it's like Deshaun Jackson is back. And I like as a fantasy player, I'm so sick of the in and out of Deshaun Jackson. But as we were talking before about that survivor pick, he's going to make that a better team. And I think he's going to give Jalen Hurts just another set of arms that can hold on to a ball and they can get open and burn. Philly went from having, 2 receivers to too many now. Is Deshaun Jackson, I mean, maybe Deshaun Jackson, we don't talk about him as a play himself, but how much does he improve Jalen Hurts, like him being back and stuff like this? It's welcome back, I guess.
Yeah, but what you like about it is that it gives him a real deep option. We just haven't seen – that's like the one thing we really haven't seen from Jalen Hurts in the first 2 games. We haven't seen him be able to push the ball deep down the field, a 40-plus yard ball in the air that hits for a big play. And Deshaun Jackson, even at the age that he's at and with the injuries he's had, he brings that to the table. He's a unique guy in Philly's offense. Jalen Reagor could be that kind of guy, but the Eagles haven't really shown a willingness to use him like that, so we shouldn't expect them to suddenly want to do that in this game. Deshaun Jackson, I mean, that's obviously what he does. That's what he's done going all the way back to his days at Cal. First stint with Philly, Washington, back with Philly. I mean, that's what Deshaun Jackson does. So you do like that for Jalen Hurts, that he now has, in theory, that option that he can hit deep down the field. But you're right, Deshaun Jackson should be nowhere near the fantasy discussion today.
Dude, I'm telling you, man. So preseason, I put, I think, like $10 on Washington to win the East because I was so hot on, as you know, Dwayne Haskins.
I remember.
Yeah, and then like week 7, I think I put something on the Giants to win the East because they were gelling at that time.
Yeah,
I think I put 20 on them. So of course, I guarantee you it's going to be the Eagles who win the East. There's just no way that's not going to happen now.
Hey,
so it's definitely not going to be the Cowboys.
Washington wins today, and you're golden.
Yeah, I mean, although as a Giants fan, it hurts me. But whatever. LA, Seattle, we talked a lot about. We talked about Darrell Henderson. We haven't talked about tight ends much at all today. Want to hit these tight ends because there's some interesting tight end situations for the Rams and the Seahawks, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with both the tight end situations here is that we are obviously out of the group of tight ends that you just start without thinking when we get to the Rams and the Seahawks. And so now you're looking at the tight end or the touchdown guys, and you're looking at, all right, who do I trust to score a touchdown? And there's just no way that anyone – yeah, exactly. There's no way that anyone from this game is ahead of, I don't know, Austin Hooper or ahead of Cole Kmet or ahead of Jimmy Graham, both Bears tight ends. Yeah, like there's just so many tight ends that I would feel better about getting into the end zone than any of these guys. So the fantasy relevance for the tight end position in this game is nil.
Mel, are you putting all 3 Cleveland tight ends up? Or is it just like basically a Hooper and Njoku and let's forget about guy blank, Harrison Bryant?
I would love to see Harrison Bryant alone, but I just can't trust him so long as those other guys are out there. It's really Hooper or no one for me.
All right, let's go to Tennessee, Green Bay. Obviously, we talked about the snow just a few minutes ago. Tannehill's interesting to me, but I mean, like, if you're going to downgrade one guy for the snow, the other guy. But A.J. Brown and Corey Davis, what a dynamic duo of humongous receivers, right? Like, that's –
yeah.
Anyway, I want to ask about
Corey
Derrick
Davis
Henry.
break through.
I want to talk about Derrick Henry. Do you feel like Tannehill's like going to get some passes, some attempts taken away? Basically, do you buy this Derrick Henry 2K narrative? Is that something that you're worried about?
Yeah, well, of course I buy it. Am I worried about it? Not really. I mean, Ryan Tannehill has now been the starting quarterback in Tennessee for more than a year, for more than a full 16-game football season, and he's had to deal with Derrick Henry being the guy the whole time. But he has been just super efficient, and we've seen a completely different Ryan Tannehill. You know, last year, 9.6 yards per attempt led the NFL, and we knew that had to come down. I mean, Patrick Mahomes doesn't give you 9.6 yards per attempt 2 years in a row. Aaron Rodgers doesn't give you 9.6 yards per attempt 2 years in a row, but it's come all the way down to a still very impressive 8.1 yards per attempt, 31 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And this has always been with Derrick Henry being the guy around whom the offense is built. So, you know, whatever. I mean, is Derrick Henry going to get 150 yards tonight? Sure, he might. But Ryan Tannehill has shown us that he can do everything that we ask of him alongside a 150-yard Derrick Henry. So feel great about him. And snow is... You know, it's a complicating factor, but the thing you really look for with passing games is wind. Wind is what messes with quarterbacks throwing the ball, and so far the weather reports indicate that it's not going to be windy to the level that we should be worried about these passing games.
Bella, we've had the Cleveland insanity dropped on us.
Yeah.
Does it seem like it's a little too quiet right now? Like maybe before these 4 o'clock games, a lot of crazy stuff's going to happen because, like, I mean, usually on these shows we're talking about Inactives for 20 minutes. Like, oh, what does this mean? What does this mean? What a surprise. I can't believe this happened. Right now it's just kind of, I mean, like maybe it's fallout from Cleveland, but there hasn't been anything crazy.
Man. It's 2020. It's not 1920. We pretty much when a day arrives, we pretty much know what the weather is going to be. Right? It's not, we've got all the great weather systems that are available to us in the modern world, and there's no sort of surprise of weather coming and sneaking up on us. So I think we can take at face value what we're seeing. Pretty comfortable weather day across the board.
Oh, I was speaking overall. Like it seems
a little crazy.
When
day?
it's like just a little too quiet right now, like nothing like No bombs been
Yeah,
dropped
sure.
on us,
Why
really.
not? I mean, I thought, on Wednesday, me, Jake, and Brandon Funston have been ending our Wednesday shows with one big prediction, one, sort of crazy prediction that you hang your hat on. And I said that it's going to take a crazy score to win your championship game. You're going to have to be 1 or 2 standard deviations removed from what's typically considered a good score in your league to actually win. The example I gave, I said if 140 is generally a winning score in your league, in your scoring format, you're going to need a 160 this week. And I think that's bearing out with what we saw first from the Vikings and Saints, and then what we saw from Tom Brady and the Buccaneers yesterday. It's looking like you're going to have a big score, and I think that's just going to continue here this afternoon. So unexpected, I don't know necessarily, but I wouldn't get too comfortable until you see player minute remaining 0 on the other side.
Dude, you know what's crazy too? Like, so I play in a bunch of CBS leagues, and I've got, you got a 51 to 49% chance of winning. And I'm thinking about that, and I know the projections. Like, I can make my own projections, and I know I'm more like a 73, but like it's in my head, and it's driving me crazy. And I wish we could just finish these games and give me my money.
I just wanted to get underway.
Let's go to Monday night. The classic New England Buffalo game, which man, I just think of New England. It sucks that like Cam Newton has just kind of become blah, because he used to be. I love Cam Newton, and maybe it's just not right in this offense. Maybe it's Cam Newton has just gotten too banged up and should have pulled an Andrew Luck. But this game should have been exciting, and I'm not really excited for it. I just feel like there's just like, I don't know, like I don't care. I mean, I do care, obviously, because I got a lot of stuff going on here. But.
It happens. There's a changing of the guard. New England has fallen off as the big bully of the AFC East, and Cam's just not the player he used to be. I mean, he was never a guy who was really scared us throwing the ball. It was what he did on the ground, and then he gave you plenty through the air because of what he did on the ground, and it's just not the sort of player he is anymore. So it happens, but there's still plenty of fantasy goodness on Buffalo's side to talk about, and I think the thing to take away from this from a fantasy perspective is don't be afraid to start your Bills. The Patriots defense is not what it once was. Even earlier this season, no Stephon Gilmore out there for them anymore. I mean, this is a situation where if you are thinking about not starting a Bill who you would typically start, Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, even Cole Beasley, you are leaning way too hard into the reputation that the Patriots have and not what the 2020 Patriots actually are. Trust the Bills. I think they win this one handily.
Let me ask you, if I threw up all the running backs in the air and they fell down, which one would you pick? I mean, there's Sony Michel, there's Damian Harris, who's had a nice late season surge. Obviously, Moss and Singletary. But it's just like kind of like the scales of running back keep evening each other out somehow.
I would pick Moss, and it's because he's the guy who gets the goal line touches on the team that I expect to win. It's really as simple as that.
I like that.
And we know that Josh Allen is also a threat to take those away from Zach Moss, let alone Devin Singletary. But that's where the logic follows for me.
I'm in the context. We've been using a lot of context today, but if we're talking about DFS lineup that you might want to go build in the next half hour, when we're gone, Gunnar Olszewski has gotten some buzz this week, and I remember he had some buzz very, very early on, and I think I might have snuck him into a rundown or two along the way in one of our podcasts. But are you at all like we're talking just strictly DFS at this point? I think looking at Gunnar Olszewski and being like, maybe I'll do that.
I mean, I think you can do better in that price point. We've seen multiple sub 100-yard games from Cam Newton this season. Multiple sub 100-yard games.
Which is insane.
Games that the Patriots have actually won. But it's just that passing game is so bereft of anything explosive, and Jacoby Myers is clearly the number one guy there. And so you're asking a guy who is at best his number 2 receiver, maybe at best his number 3 guy in the passing game for a passing offense that could very well give you like 100 net yards. It's just there are a lot of marks against him where even at the bargain price that he is, the absolute low price, I just think you could do a little bit better.
We've reached the end of our rundown. Look at that.
Look at that. Paper. Thank God you have it printed out. We must have been going on forever, just a forever scroll, and we'd be sitting here at 2:00 still talking about things.
We'd start getting into the Week 15 games by accident because that's how our shared doc works behind the scenes. We traditionally do one last big question here. So let's bring up our last big question and let you all set your lineups, get locked in, read Jake's rankings.
I got some lineups to finish.
I know, me too. Yeah, let's get out of here. There we go. Tell our good friend Taz.
What's up,
Point
Taz?
5 PPR. Bell, Carson, or I like this. Who has the highest ceiling? Who is the highest ceiling, and what's your recommendation, Miller?
I know when that highest ceiling typically connotes someone who also has a low floor or someone who is a surprise starter, which would fit the bill for both Bell in place of CEH and Henderson in place of Cam Akers. But sometimes the guy with the ceiling is just the best player who's been starting all season long, and that is Chris Carson. He's got the ceiling here. He's got the floor here. He's the best back. He's attached to Russell Wilson. I'll take Chris Carson.
That was poetic. The first
Thank
time.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we're going to go do some stuff. We hope you
Yeah.
are too. We hope everyone had a very safe and happy holiday season. May you have a happy new year. To our friends who don't celebrate either of those things, enjoy the weather. Hopefully it's good where you're at. So for Michael Beller, for Jakey, for Funston and DVR who weren't here today, for our man behind the scenes who will remain nameless, I'm Nana DeFino. We hope this is helpful. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope, you win. Let us know on Twitter if you won, the Athletic FS.
Yeah.
Check out Jock Market. They're cool people. They got a good game. They're making this all possible. Thank you all very much. Good luck. Godspeed. And we'll see you later.